For 1,000 years, the galaxy had known peace. Not a fragile peace, not a forced peace, but a quiet, steady peace that felt permanent. Star systems traded freely. Space lanes stayed open. Borders barely changed. Many younger species believed war was an old myth, something found only in history records and damaged archives. The reason for this peace was simple. Humanity existed. Humans were not the strongest species. They were not the largest. They did not rule the Galactic Council. Their fleets were rarely seen, and their leaders almost never raised their voices. To the galaxy, humans looked harmless. They smiled often. They spoke calmly. They signed treaties and kept them. For centuries, they avoided conflict and solved problems with words instead of weapons. So the galaxy relaxed. And then the Xeric Dominion rose. The Xeric were powerful, aggressive, and proud. Their empire expanded quickly, absorbing weaker species and forcing others into obedience. Their fleets were massive, their weapons loud, their leaders cruel and confident. At first, they respected the ancient peace. But as their strength grew, their patience ended. On a single day, across every major world, the Galactic Council broadcast began. Representatives from hundreds of species appeared on massive holographic screens. The atmosphere was tense. No one knew why an emergency meeting had been called. Then the Xeric warlord stepped forward. He was tall, armored, and scarred from countless battles. His voice echoed through the chamber and across the galaxy. "The age of peace is over," he declared. "The Xeric Dominion no longer recognizes old agreements." A wave of fear moved through the council. The warlord continued, his eyes burning with confidence. "Humanity has grown soft, weak. They hide behind stories of old power. Today we end the lie." He raised one claw. "The Xeric Dominion declares war on humanity." Gasps filled the chamber. Some alien delegates shouted. Others froze in silence. A few immediately began sending distress signals to their homeworlds. Everyone turned toward the human seat. The human representative stood slowly. He was old. His hair was gray. His uniform was simple, without heavy armor or glowing weapons. He did not look angry. He looked calm. The Xeric warlord waited for shouting, for threats, for panic. Instead, the human smiled. Just slightly. He nodded once and said only 3 words. "We understand you." Then he sat down. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, confusion spread faster than fear. Where were the human threats? Where were the war warnings? Where were the fleets? Hours passed. Nothing happened. The Xeric leaders laughed. They called humanity cowards. They claimed humans were too afraid to respond. Other species were not laughing. Older races remembered fragments of history. Old warnings. Half-deleted records marked restricted by human request. They tried to contact Earth. Human channels answered politely. "There is no emergency," the human said. "Daily operations will continue." And they did. On Earth, people went to work. Children went to school. Ships followed normal trade routes. No alarm sounded. No evacuation orders were given. But deep beneath human cities, far below public levels, ancient systems powered on. Lights that had not shined for centuries glowed again. In distant star systems officially listed as uninhabited, silent structures unfolded from asteroid shadows. Long dormant factories began to move. Human AIs, older than most alien civilizations, woke from sleep. They did not panic. They simply checked the date. Meanwhile, the Xeric Dominion prepared for war. Massive fleets gathered near human borders. Weapons were armed. Generals boasted of easy victory. Humans forgot how to fight, they said. 1,000 years of peace makes prey. The first Xeric fleet crossed into human space. No resistance. They destroyed a small outpost. No human ships appeared. No weapons fired back. The Xeric celebrated. Across the galaxy, fear exploded. Refugee ships fled human systems. Smaller species begged the Council to intervene. Some accused humans of lying about their strength. Still, humanity stayed silent. But silence did not mean stillness. Human commanders watched every move, every weapon, every signal. They studied the Zurich fleet like scientists observing a storm. And somewhere deep in space, far from any public map, a human admiral opened his eyes. He had waited a long time. The peace had ended, and humanity was finally awake. The galaxy waited for humanity to react. It waited for loud warnings, emergency meetings, and fleets rushing to the borders. That was how wars always began. Fear first, noise second, destruction last. But from human space, there was only silence. The Galactic Council called emergency sessions one after another. Representatives argued, shouted, and blamed each other. Some demanded that humans defend the peace. Others accused humans of hiding while the galaxy burned. No human fleet appeared. No angry message was sent. To many species, the silence felt worse than war. The Zurich Dominion took the silence as proof of weakness. Their warlord laughed openly during private broadcasts. He told his generals that humans had grown lazy after 1,000 years without war. They forgot who they are, he said. They forgot how to fight. More Zurich fleets moved forward. They crossed deeper into human territory, destroying small stations and mining worlds. The attacks were fast and brutal, meant to shock humanity into surrender. Still, humans did not respond. On the surface, it looked like fear. Underneath, it was preparation. Deep inside human command centers, officers worked calmly. No shouting, no panic. Screens showed real-time battle data, weapon readings, and fleet movement patterns. Human analysts studied everything. Zurich weapon heat curves, shield recharge delays, command response times. Nothing was wasted. This is not an invasion, one human strategist said quietly. This is a test. Ancient defense protocols were unlocked. Most humans alive had never heard their names. Projects that had been sealed for centuries were activated with single authorization code. The code had not changed in 1,000 years. Because humans never expected peace to last forever. Across human space, old shipyards began to move. They were hidden inside moons, deep oceans, and hollowed asteroids. Their designs were old, built when humanity had learned hard lessons through terrible wars. These ships were not beautiful. They were practical. No bright colors. No proud markings. Only purpose. Human AIs guided the process, calculating without emotion. They had waited patiently, watching humanity grow soft, hoping this day would never come. But they were ready. Meanwhile, fear spread among the other species. Civilian ships crowded jump gates, tried to escape human space before the war reached full strength. Some worlds closed their borders. Others sent desperate messages to Earth, begging humans to negotiate. Human replies were polite, short, unhelpful. We are aware of the situation. We advise caution. Please remain calm. This calm terrified the older races. They remembered stories. Stories about humanity's first centuries in space. About wars so destructive that entire systems were erased from star maps. About enemies who attacked humans and were never heard from again. Most of those records were incomplete. Humans had asked the Council to delete them. The Zurich did not know these stories. Their fleets advanced toward a major human trade route, expecting their first real battle. Instead, they found empty space. No civilian ships. No patrols. No resistance. The Zurich commander grew angry. Where are they hiding? He demanded. Then the sensors failed. One moment, his fleet filled the system. The next moment, his ships began to disappear. Not explode. Disappear. Ships vanished from sensors without warning. Communication signals were cut mid-sentence. Navigation systems showed impossible readings. Panic spread through the Zurich fleet. They fired blindly into empty space. Nothing answered. Far away, human observers watched quietly. They did not celebrate. They did not speak. They recorded. Within minutes, the Zurich fleet was gone. No wreckage drifted. No survivors escaped. The system returned to silence, as if nothing had ever happened. The news spread across the galaxy like a shockwave. A full Zurich fleet had vanished, not defeated, not destroyed, erased. The Galactic Council froze. The Zurich warlord stopped laughing. He demanded reports. His generals offered excuses. Equipment failure, unknown weapons, impossible technology. Fear crept into Zurich command rooms. They ordered all fleets to slow their advance. For the first time, doubt entered their minds. Still, humanity said nothing. But across human space, something changed. Ships began to move, not rushing, not chasing, positioning. Human fleets appeared at key systems without announcement. They did not block trade routes. They did not attack. They simply existed, and their presence was heavy. The message was clear to those who understood. Humanity had not been afraid. Humanity had been watching. The peace had not made them weak. It had made them patient. And now, the galaxy was beginning to understand what patience meant. The Zurich Dominion refused to believe what had happened. A full fleet could not simply vanish. Not without a trace. Not without a fight. Zurich technology was advanced, their ships heavily armed. They had crushed dozens of civilizations before. Humans were supposed to be easy. The Zurich warlord stood before his generals, his claws tight with anger. This was not defeat, he said. This was a trick. He ordered a new plan. This time, the Zurich would not test the edges of human space. They would strike the heart. A fast, powerful attack meant to break human morale and force surrender. The target was a human core system, a populated world, shipyards, trade hubs. The Zurich gathered their strongest fleet yet. Hundreds of warships, led by elite command vessels. Their weapons were charged. Their crews were confident again. This strike will end the war, the Zurich commander said. The fleet jumped into human space. They expected alarms. They expected resistance. They found none. The human system looked peaceful. Cities glowed on the planet below. Civilian traffic moved normally. No warships waited to defend the system. The Zurich commander smiled. Fire, he ordered. Energy weapons rained toward the planet's defenses and stopped. Every shot froze in space. Not slowed, not blocked, stopped. The Zurich fleet stared in silence. Then the human ships appeared. They did not jump in with bright flashes. They did not announce themselves. They simply faded into view, as if they had always been there. Human ships surrounded the Zurich fleet in perfect formation. No warnings were given. No threats were spoken. The Zurich fired again. Human ships did not dodge. They absorbed the fire. Their shields did not flare. Their hulls did not glow. The attacks meant nothing. Then the humans responded. They did not use loud weapons. No explosions filled the screen. Instead, Zurich systems began to fail. Power grids shut down. Weapon controls locked. Engines died. Zurich ships drifted helplessly. The human fleet moved closer. One by one, Zurich command ships were disabled. Boarding pods attached silently. Human soldiers entered without resistance. The battle ended in minutes. The Zurich commander was captured alive. Across the galaxy, panic exploded. This was not a battle. This was control. The Galactic Council demanded answers. They contacted Earth again. This time, the human response was different. A single broadcast was sent to every known world. A human admiral appeared on screen. He was old. His face was calm, his voice steady. We did not strike first, he said. We did not rush to war. He paused. For 1,000 years, we kept the peace because we remembered what war costs. Images appear behind him. Ancient human wars. Burned planets. Lost fleets. Silent stars. We prepared, the admiral continued, not to conquer, not to rule, to end wars before they spread. The Zurich warlord was brought before the council in chains. His armor was gone, his confidence shattered. He demanded to know how humans had hidden such power for so long. The human admiral answered simply, "We learned long ago that strength does not need to be seen." The council listened in silence. The Zurich Dominion tried to retreat. Human ships were already there, not attacking, waiting. Human fleets positioned themselves around Zurich core worlds. They blocked military movement, but allowed civilian ships to pass. It was not a siege. It was a lesson. Zerek weapons no longer worked. Their fleets could not move without human permission. Their empire stood frozen. The war had not lasted months. It had not lasted weeks. It had barely begun. The galaxy watched as the strongest empire fell without burning a single world. And for the first time in 1,000 years, every species understood the truth. Humanity had not forgotten war. They had mastered it. The galaxy had never been so quiet. Worlds that once argued loudly in the Galactic Council now listened in silence. Trade lanes slowed. Military fleets stayed docked. Every species waited for one thing. What would humans do next? Human ships surrounded Zerek space like silent shadows. They did not fire. They did not threaten. They did not move unless necessary. This calm pressure was worse than open attack. Inside Zerek command chambers, panic ruled. Generals argued. Systems failed without warning. Fleets refused to respond to commands. The Zerek warlord sat in a secure chamber aboard a captured ship. He no longer shouted. His claws trembled. He had fought many wars. This was not one of them. This was something else. Then, without warning, every communication channel in the galaxy activated at once. Not with alarms. With a human voice. The broadcast reached every planet, every station, every ship. Even species without advanced technology received translated audio. A human speaker appeared. Not a soldier, not a politician. An elderly woman, dressed in a simple dark uniform. She did not look powerful. She looked tired. "My name is Director Hale," she said calmly. "I speak for humanity." She paused, letting the silence stretch. For 1,000 years, we honored peace. Not because we feared war, but because we feared what war would turn us into. Images followed her words. Human cities rebuilding after ancient conflicts. Star systems marked as uninhabitable. Names of lost worlds scrolling slowly across the screen. "We learned early," Hale continued, "that victory means nothing if everything is destroyed." The Zerek warlord watched the broadcast, unable to look away. Hale's voice never rose. "When the Zerek Dominion declared war, we did not respond with anger. We responded with care. Care. The word confused the galaxy. We studied. We measured. We planned. Because war should never be loud or emotional." She looked directly into the camera. It should be short. Behind her, new images appeared. Human shipyards hidden inside stars. Fleets emerging from folded space. Weapon systems built not to kill, but to disable entire empires. These systems were not built yesterday. Hale said, "They are older than most civilizations listening today." The Council understood now. Humans had not disarmed after their early wars. They had refined. The broadcast continued. "To the Zerek Dominion," Hale said, her tone firm but not cruel, "your fleets are disabled. Your weapons are locked. Your leaders are detained. We do not seek revenge." The Zerek warlord lowered his head. "We seek an end." A single condition was given. Total surrender of military control. Dismantling of aggressive fleets. Permanent monitoring. Not punishment. Protection. The galaxy held its breath. Would the Zerek accept? Inside their capital world, the Zerek High Council met in panic. Their empire had been built on fear. Without weapons, they had nothing. They had no choice. The surrender was transmitted across open channels. The war ended, not with explosions, with a message. Across human space, fleets powered down. Weapons returned to standby. Ancient systems closed once more. But the galaxy was changed. The Galactic Council met again days later. This time, the humans were not ignored. Other species asked questions. Why hide such power? Why not rule? Why protect enemies? Director Hale answered simply, "Because someone must choose not to become a monster." The Council rewrote its laws. Unprovoked war became the greatest crime. Military expansion was monitored. Human observers were placed in key systems. Humanity did not rule the galaxy. They guarded it. The Zerek warlord was allowed to live. Stripped of power, forced to watch his empire rebuild without violence. For him, this was the worst punishment. And far from council chambers and politics, human fleets returned to their hidden resting places. 1,000-year peace had ended. A stronger one had begun. But deep within humanity, one truth remained. Peace was never permanent. It was earned. The Xeric Dominion did not fall in fire. It fell in silence. Across Xeric space, military systems shut down one by one. War fleets drifted without power. Defense platforms stopped responding. Command codes no longer worked. Xeric soldiers waited for orders that never came. For the first time in their history, the Dominion was helpless. Human fleets remained in place, calm and distant. They did not bomb cities. They did not land armies. They did not celebrate victory. They simply watched. On the Xeric capital world, crowds gathered in the streets, not to fight, not to cheer, to wait. Fear hung heavy in the air. The Xeric people had been told humans were weak, that humans were soft after 1,000 years of peace. Now they knew the truth. Inside a secure chamber, the Xeric warlord stood before a human delegation. His armor was gone. His weapons were gone. He looked smaller than before. "You could destroy us," he said bitterly. "Why don't you?" The human admiral facing him did not answer right away. Destruction was easy. That was the problem. "We don't destroy what we can control," the admiral said finally. "And we don't control what we don't understand." The warlord laughed softly. "You humiliate us instead." "No," the admiral replied. "We stop you." The Xeric Military Council was dissolved within days. Generals were removed from power. Shipyards were locked. Weapons factories shut down under human supervision. The galaxy watched closely. Many expected executions. There were none. Instead, trials began. Open trials. Every act of aggression, every forced conquest, every destroyed world was shown to the galaxy. Evidence played across council screens. The Xeric warlord was forced to watch. World after world. Species after species. For the first time, he saw the cost of his empire clearly. The sentence was announced. Life, not freedom. Responsibility. The warlord would live to see his empire rebuilt without fear. To him, this was worse than death. Across the galaxy, reactions were mixed. Some species were relieved. Some were afraid. Some were angry. Why were humans so merciful? Older races understood. Human mercy was not weakness. It was confidence. Human fleets slowly withdrew from Xeric systems. Not all at once. Step by step. Always watching. Human observers remained behind, silent and alert. The Xeric people were left with a choice. Rebuild or collapse. They chose to rebuild. Factories turned to civilian use. Military academies closed. Trade agreements replaced conquest. Slowly, painfully, the Dominion changed. And everywhere, humans watched without interference. The Galactic Council met again. This time, no one argued. They invited humanity to speak first. A human delegate stood and addressed the galaxy. "We did not save you," he said. "We reminded you." He explained that peace was never guaranteed by laws or councils. It was maintained by restraint, by preparation, by knowing when not to strike. The Xeric believed peace meant weakness, he continued. They were wrong. New rules were passed. Military transparency became law. Aggressive expansion was forbidden. Early warning systems were shared. Human technology quietly supported it all, not controlling, balancing. Months passed. Trade resumed. Borders stabilized. Fear slowly faded. But something had changed forever. The galaxy now understood that humanity was not a quiet species by accident. They were quiet by choice. Deep in human space, ancient fleets returned to storage. Docking bays closed. Lights dimmed. Human AIs logged the conflict and archived it carefully. They hoped it would never be needed again. But hope was never trust. One young human officer asked an old admiral a simple question. "Will there be another war?" The admiral looked out at the stars. "There always is," he said. "But not today." Far away, on a rebuilt Xeric world, the former warlord watched children play in open streets. No soldiers, no banners, no fear. He finally understood what humanity had protected. Not power, the future. The galaxy did not celebrate the end of the war. There were no great parades, no victory songs, no monuments raised in human space. Instead, there was relief. A quiet breath taken by billions of beings who realized they were still alive. The Xeric Dominion slowly rebuilt itself, not as an empire of fear, but as a cautious member of the galactic community. Their fleet stayed docked, their weapons rusted and used. Their people learned new ways to exist without conquest. Human observers remained, but they did not rule. They advised, they warned, they watched, and most importantly, they waited. Across the galaxy, other species changed too. Military budgets shrank. Old grudges cooled. Border conflicts stopped before they began. No one wanted to test humanity's patience, because now everyone understood the truth. Humans did not rush to war, but when war came to them, it ended quickly. On Earth, life returned fully to normal. Cities stayed bright. Schools stayed open. Children learned history again, not just human history, but galactic history. They were taught why the peace had ended and why it had been restored. Human leaders spoke openly now, not with threats, with reminders. 1,000 years of peace had not erased humanity's past. It had sharpened it. Humans remembered every war they had fought, every mistake, every loss. That memory shaped everything they built. Deep beneath Earth's surface, the ancient command centers powered down once more. Massive doors sealed. Fleets slipped back into silence. Human AIs recorded one final note in their logs. Conflict resolved. Peace maintained. Standby mode engaged. ****. The Galactic Council invited humanity to lead. Humanity refused. Instead, they proposed something new, a shared responsibility. No single species would rule. No single empire would dominate. Peace would be protected not by fear, but by awareness. And if awareness failed, humanity would act, not as conquerors, as guardians. The former Xeric warlord lived out his days quietly. He was allowed to walk among his people, but never to command again. He spent most of his time watching the skies. He understood now. Human ships did not patrol loudly. They did not show strength openly, but they were always there, watching, learning, waiting. One day, a young Xeric asked him a question. Why didn't the humans destroy us? The old warlord was silent for a long time. Because they already won, he finally said, and because they didn't need to prove it. Years passed. The story of the war became legend. Younger species studied it carefully. Older ones nodded knowingly. The lesson was simple. Peace is not the absence of power. It is the control of it. Far from the core worlds, on the edge of explored space, a human explorer ship discovered signs of a new civilization. Primitive, curious, afraid. The ship did not raise weapons. It sent a greeting. Back on Earth, a human admiral read the report and smiled. The galaxy would keep changing. New threats would rise. Old fears would return. That was the nature of life. But humanity would remain the same. Quiet, patient, prepared. Because humans did not fear war. They feared becoming what war demanded. And so they chose peace. Not because it was easy, but because they were strong enough to hold it. For now,